Hello, everyone, and welcome back to DWG TV. I'm Hannah, and today I am joined by Bridget Deutz. She is here to talk about inbound marketing. She is the founder and marketing strategist at Greenline Marketing, and so we really wanted to have her on today to share a comprehensive yet simple explanation as to what exactly inbound marketing is, seeing as she is an expert. Bridget, I know I first came to know of you from Inbound 2 years, not this past year, but last year. We attended your session, I think on Partner Day, and learned a lot about optimizing content, reusing content, things of that nature. So that was really cool. And I'm glad that we've come full circle and we have you here on DWG TV today. So if you just want to take a second and introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and how you got to where you are today in your career.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So like Hannah said, my name is Bridget Deutz. I own Greenline Marketing. I'm based in central Minnesota. I work out of my apartment right now. I have clients kind of all over right now, the Midwest. So North, South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin. But I also have clients in a few other states out on the East and West Coast. So I'm always willing and happy to travel and go to where the clients are. I got started with marketing. So I grew up in a small town in Southwest Minnesota, Marshall, Minnesota. If you're familiar with Schwann's ice cream, it's where that started. And I grew up on a farm, and my grandpa was a business owner, and my other grandpa and my dad were farmers. And so I really learned the value of owning businesses and supporting local, whether that was businesses or farmers, whatever that looked like. And as a creative person, I kind of was like, okay, where does this all fit? You know, I like writing, I like project management, I like kind of putting all the puzzle pieces together. So after college, when I knew like marketing was the place where I could do all of those things, I worked in-house marketing for 2 years. I worked in the financial industry and the healthcare industry. And then I had an opportunity to work for a really great agency in St. Cloud, Minnesota. And they kind of introduced me to the inbound marketing side of things. So I worked there for 5 years. And then kind of going back to those small town roots, I was like, you know, I've always wanted to try owning my own business. Now's the time. So I just kind of took that leap in 2019 early on and decided to start Greenline Marketing. So that's kind of where I'm at now.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations on launching your business, and that's just really inspiring there. What really was the factor in you deciding, I know you said you always wanted to start your own business and kind of venture into that. What really inspired you to take the leap from leaving your agency and starting your own marketing agency?
Yeah. It's a good question, and one I get often, and I'm still trying to like craft that answer. But, you know, I tell people, you know, it was about a month before my 28th birthday. And I was like, okay, you know, I'm done with the student loan thing. I had kind of decided I wasn't going to go back for my master's, that wasn't the route for me. And I was kind of at a crossroads with my job too, in terms of kind of what was next for me. And I was like, you know, I could always just try to do it on my own, because if it flops and I fail miserably, at least I'll know and I've tried.
Yeah.
And I can always just get a job again. So I felt like I was like financially stable. I had enough experience in the marketing industry, being in both in-house and agency, and was also kind of old enough, I guess, where I felt like I had business connections and support of the communities that I was in to really help like elevate me in terms of referrals and sharing my information with other people. So I think for me, it was just like it's now or never. Like I have to get this Band-Aid off, because if it's, you know, on my heart and in my mind, now's the time to try that. So
absolutely. So what services do y'all offer?
Yeah, so I have kind of 3 different business verticals, I guess. So the first one is the inbound marketing piece. And that typically is via contracted work. So
Okay.
contract with some businesses, they outsource more or less their marketing to me, and I handle their inbound marketing. And the other contracted work with inbound marketing is actually with other agencies. So I work with website agencies, design agencies, and other marketing agencies who are looking for someone that has experience or kind of the track record of building intricate and detailed marketing strategies for
Right.
businesses who are using the inbound marketing model.
Mm-hmm.
So those agencies, I think they come to me thinking, okay, she already knows HubSpot, which is the software that I typically use.
Mm-hmm.
She knows how inbound marketing works, and she has experience building these strategies and having success. So people are always surprised when they're like, oh, you work with other marketing agencies, but I think it's just a good resource. I'm not necessarily on their payroll, but I'm a contracted member of their team.
Right.
So that's the inbound piece. The second kind of vertical that is growing really quickly actually is I offer maternity leave coverage for marketing.
Oh,
So
wow.
businesses and agencies that have employees going on maternity or paternity leave,
Mm-hmm.
that's anywhere from 6 to 12 to 16 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
In the marketing world, you can't just hire a temp worker or
Mm-hmm.
quickly onboard someone. There's no such thing as being quickly onboarded with marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So I have kind of a process that's set up so that I come in, I take over during their maternity leave, and then I kind of phase back out while they're getting back acquainted with the client work, and
Yeah.
worked really well and become successful, and is a need that people have.
Yeah.
No one wants their clients to just sit and collect dust because they're on maternity or paternity
Right.
leave. So that's kind of the second vertical. And then the third vertical is just individual marketing service options. So blogging, social media, email marketing. So kind of those individual marketing services that people either need someone to kind of guide what they're doing or actually do the work. So like I said, the writing or creative, that piece. So right now it's a little bit of everything, it feels
Yeah.
like, but I'm enjoying it and kind of just along for the ride this first year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's genius with the maternity and paternity leave coverage. That is super smart. I've personally never heard of anyone kind of creating a service for that. So super smart on your part.
Yeah, thanks. It was
So
kind of one of those happy accidents by demand.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So let's back up a little bit and talk about inbound marketing. For someone who's kind of unfamiliar with the concept or just hasn't really heard of it, how would you break the idea of inbound marketing down to them?
Yeah, so I always compare, and HubSpot uses this analogy, which is where I got it, inbound marketing versus outbound marketing. So outbound marketing is if you think of some of those really tried and true, but more traditional tactics, think billboards, radio ads, things that are putting a message out there in the megaphone format. So you're putting a message out there for anyone and everyone to see at any time. Inbound marketing uses more of a magnet approach so that you very early on identify who you want to talk to and when you want to talk to them in their buying process, so that everything you do, whether it's writing emails, putting up new pages on your website, developing a blog or social channel, is very targeted at the needs that your business fulfills for that person. So it's a little bit more targeted. You kind of wait for someone to raise their hand and say, I have this problem or need, and then you kind of see how your business fits in from there.
Got it. So when it comes to traditional marketing and inbound marketing, how would you is it best to use one or the other? Should both work in tandem? Does it just totally depend on your business and service and what you do? How do you typically go about recommending strategies with your clients as to if they should use traditional inbound methodologies or kind of combining the two?
Yeah, I always think it depends on not only the business, but on your buyers. So I'm really passionate about determining and creating buyer personas at the very beginning of any marketing project. I feel strongly that without knowing exactly who you're talking to them in the right place at the right time, and really in the right way with the right language, those things become guesses at best.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one thing I learned at the agency I was at and have carried through, that taking the time, doing the research, the interviews, learning demographics about who your customer or potential customer base is really can determine where are they going for information? How do they like to receive information? What are the words that they use to describe their problems or their needs?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where it really determines, people might think things like radio advertising or billboards are old school, but
Mm-hmm.
they have a time and place, if they serve a purpose to reach your audience. So I always say the buyer persona and who is using your business is really the foundation for determining what tactics and where they fit in.
Totally. What is your process, or do you just want to share a little bit of insight into how you create buyer personas?
Yeah, so it's always a little bit more involved, I think, than people anticipate. So I really try to start with kind of some online research. I always tell people, if someone saw me doing it like over my shoulder, they'd probably just think I was like creeping on people or casually stalking them. But
Yeah.
I try to get, customer lists and start there. Like, who are your current customers?
Mm-hmm.
And have conversations with them, ask questions, and just try to organically learn how they found out about this company
Mm-hmm.
or the solution, and really start to learn what type of person they are. After I have those people that I know are already customers, that's when I kind of start to outline commonalities between them and do some research into demographics. Like, if you notice, a good portion of customers are females ages 32 to 55. Okay, what else can I learn about women in that age group or in specific states or areas? So I kind of start with who are current customers, learning from them, and then kind of start to back it by database research. I do a lot of reading about censuses
Mm-hmm.
and some of that demographic piece. And then I create, it's about 7 to 10 slides of a PowerPoint deck that really outlines, words that they use, questions that they ask, what leads them to a business or a service product, that kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
where they go for information, who influences them. Do they go to their mom and dad, or for information, do they always turn to Google? Do they post on Facebook saying they need help? All of those things that humans do on a daily basis,
Yeah.
that's something about how they make decisions. And so I really just try to get in the heads of those people. Sometimes I'm lucky enough that I'm like, oh, this persona is totally my mom. I could just talk to her.
Yeah.
And sometimes I really have to think outside the box and do some more digging online.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, because I know we create buyer personas for our clients as well. And we're also always trying to get our partners and clients to understand exactly what a buyer persona is. So I think you explained that really well and kind of gave good insight into what that process looks like for building them and where all that information comes from. A lot of research, a lot of data, all that good stuff.
Yeah. People
No,
are
go ahead.
surprised when I'm like, yeah, it takes like 15 to 20 hours to make one. They're like, what do you do? And I was like, well, and then I kind of go into it. But yeah, to really get and it's always evolving, because a year from now, your buyer persona is going to change and take different shapes. So
For sure. Yeah. So let's say you have a client and they really want to kind of work with you for inbound marketing, building up their inbound marketing strategies. Are there any hard and fast rules for your clients? Like, should all businesses and organizations be blogging? Should all businesses have a newsletter? How do you kind of figure out what inbound marketing tactics are right for a business or organization that you're working with? I know a lot of it depends on those buyer personas, how they're gathering information, things of that nature. But can you kind of just share a little bit about how you decide what kind of specific strategies work best for them?
yeah, I always tell people, when they're curious about starting inbound or are overwhelmed and are not sure where they can jump in, I always tell people the first and most important thing you can do is in some way track the marketing things that you're doing right now. Because when I come in, the very first thing I look at is, what are you doing right now and how is it performing for you, or what is it doing to help you or to hinder you?
Mm-hmm.
From, kind of what are you doing and how is it working, to what is your goal, or what does the perfect scenario for you look like?
Yeah.
That's where I can start to fill in between how to bridge the gap of what's working, what's not working, and what best serves our company's mission, or
Mm-hmm.
really bottom line, to be honest. I think kind of those hard and fast rules, to compete in things like search engine optimization, content is really important.
Yeah.
Whether that means website content, having downloadable offers or resources on your website, or having a blog. I think consistent and really powerful content is going to be one of the things that can serve you digitally very well.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of people who, want to build relationships and more of a brand presence, I think video is one of those things that just can no longer be ignored. As much as people say like, oh, I don't want to be in front of the camera, or I don't want to do this or that, I think even as consumers and shoppers and people who are active on social media, we don't really think twice about what someone looks like on the video. It's just that visual paired with kind of the transparency and personal connection that video can present, I think is an opportunity to do that. So I think video content is growing, and really email content. Every now and then it seems like a couple times a year you see an article that comes out and it's like, email marketing is dead. It's like, well, but it's really not, because this day and age, I don't know how any of us function personally or professionally without email. So I think, if you think about the emails in your own inbox that you open every time or you read every time, and you start to think about why you do those things, and then pairing those things with what you know about your buyers, I think email marketing can be really powerful. So it's kind of, the right recipe of each of those things at the right time, I think is where businesses can get really smart. But without tracking it and really taking time, every 60, 90 days to analyze, okay, here's what we're doing and here's what we're learning, I think it's kind of just one of those things that you'll throw money at and get really frustrated with. Because I do think that's where inbound marketing, and again, I'm familiar with HubSpot as a tool, it really bridges that gap. It allows you to plan, to schedule, but then also measure. Because if you're doing all these things and you have no idea what's working or not, then you're just going to end up kind of back at square one.
So going off of that, how do you know if what you're doing is working? How can you attribute the revenue you're bringing in to inbound marketing?
Yeah, so it's a good question. And with every company, it's a little bit different. Some companies, I always say the ideal scenario is that a company doesn't have a CRM and they're open to using one that I recommend, because then HubSpot makes a lot of sense, because it's taking the marketing side and the sales side and pairing them together in a really smart way. But in an also ideal scenario, a company is using a CRM of some sort that we can say, okay, you're tracking the people who are coming in. Now we just need to tie things like original visit to the website or their first action. I think in most scenarios, businesses are using some sales tracker or CRM of some sort. And I am able to work really closely with either a marketing or lead salesperson on their team to say, let's compare the lists, or let's figure out an integration so that our databases are kind of cross-pollinating and looking at what's working. I think reporting is kind of one of those maybe necessary evils. I get really excited about reporting because I think that's where a lot of the learning comes from, but it takes time, and you have to be willing to say, okay, I'm going to sit down and figure out why this isn't working, or I'm going to figure out why we had this huge success, because once I identify, what led to that or what contributed to that, then we can try to duplicate that.
Yeah, that's really good information there. So what is one mistake that you see businesses making often when it comes to their marketing?
Oh, gosh. I would say two different mistakes. The first one, I think, are a lot of inexpensive and DIY ways to build a website. And I always remind businesses that you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
And whether that comes down to what your website looks like or how it functions on the back end and what's set up, or the content on your website and what level of optimization it has. When you work with an expert, you'll get a website that's set up, ready for success.
Yeah.
That's one. And I think the other one is people kind of the misperception of, well, we can just divide and conquer marketing, or marketing is not a priority. Because, businesses a lot of times have that idea that, well, marketing just costs money. But until you can kind of really get strategic and pair marketing with sales and say, well, marketing can bring in money. And sometimes it's kind of fighting that fight of like, just let me show you and let's try this. But yeah, just, I guess, investing in marketing and seeing its value instead of seeing it as a cost or a frustration. Or, I hear a lot businesses are like, oh, well, so-and-so's daughter helps us with social media, or, we have a blog, but we don't use it. I think sometimes those things do more harm than good. So I think when and if businesses shift their mindset to marketing can be a revenue generating source for us, that's already, I think they're ahead of their competitors in a lot of cases.
Yeah, definitely. Going off of that, what would you say or recommend to a business or organization who tends to be putting marketing on the back burner, whether it be due to budgetary constraints or just limited resources, things of that nature? What would you recommend they do?
I would say if it's on the back burner, due to budget or resources, I would say let's try to figure out somewhere you can start. Just start with one piece of it. I think that's where sometimes inbound marketing can be overwhelming, because it's like, so I have to do everything. But you can start with one piece and kind of master it or grow it as you need or as you're able to. But I think when you identify one area of marketing that can be improved, or that's already really powerful but needs more attention, it's a little bit more digestible to say like, okay, we can handle that piece of it.
Going off of that too, what is one actionable piece of advice that you would give someone watching today that they can start doing to be making strides with their inbound marketing? What's just one small thing they can do?
Yeah. Oh gosh, I was going to say one and then another one popped into my head. But the first one I would say is, if you don't currently have some sort of analytic tool on your website to track what you're doing, whether it's Google Analytics or HubSpot or anything else, excuse me, get some tool on your website to start tracking what's happening, what pages people are going to, how long they're on pages. I think that's an important place to start.
Yeah.
So the other one I thought of was put forms on your website to collect people's information, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, I think both of those are great. I know we often run into, when we bring on a new client, sometimes we're going to set KPIs for them and goals, but we don't know where they've been because they haven't been tracking anything. So I definitely think that's a great starting point for someone who's just a little bit overwhelmed with this whole world of inbound marketing, but needs to start somewhere. Getting that analytic tool on their website, I think, will be a huge help, not only in the present, but in the future as well.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much all the questions I have, other than, do you want to share where people can go to find out more about Greenline Marketing?
Yeah. So our website is Greenline, so one word, -marketing.com. On social, we're at Greenline_MKTG. Or of course, our social platforms are connected on our website. Otherwise, you can always connect with me on LinkedIn. It's Bridget Deutz. My last name is Deutz. Or you can follow me at Bridgie_D.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here, Bridget. This was really beneficial, not only for me, but I'm sure for our viewers as well. So we really appreciate your time and insight.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks y'all for tuning in today. I hope you got a lot of value out of this conversation. If you did, be sure to like and share this video and follow along with DeBose Web on social media to find out when we'll be going live next. Have a great day, and thanks for tuning in. Bye, guys.